Well, good morning, guys. I had a quick little unboxing, but it relates to Fleabay items. And I wasn't going to do a Fleabay edition here, but there's actually been a few revelations or a few little developments that have happened on some of these items that are for sale, and a couple of things that have, as usual, have irritated me. I've bought a couple of things, and one of them was delivered late last night. Our U.S. Postal Service is blaming Christmas cheer and bad weather for the normal poor service that we've come to know and appreciate from them. But anyway, I thought I'd very quickly go through. I'm not going to show screenshots or anything. This is hopefully going to be pretty quick. Let's just quickly look, and then we'll go back and look at a couple of things that really caught my eye. First one here under Atlas Mills, there is a newly listed set of milling index centers, M1-200, which standard milling setter. They want $775 or best offer and $22.95 shipping. This is actually a pretty good looking set of index centers. You know, there again, I don't think it's worth $775. You know, I mean, it looks like it's got gearing with it and everything. There's the knob that is spring-loaded and locks into the index gear. That is not an original knob. It's been changed to something there. Everything else, just on my initial looking at it, looks pretty good. It looks like a pretty nice set of index centers. So, you know, somebody's in the market, but there again, I don't think they're worth that. Somebody commented here a while back that said they thought that I undervalued a lot of the Atlas stuff. I don't really think I have. You know, it is going to depend on where you're located and that type of thing. But I don't think I've undervalued them. I think what's happened is these sellers, especially on Fleabay, have overvalued them to the extent that we think it's become the norm. So anyway, there's a set of index centers here. You know, you pay your money, takes your choices. There's a new milling machine listed, $19.99, and there's a buy it now on it. It's at least part of it's been reworked and repainted and things like that. It's missing guards and that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's out there. Otherwise, there's nothing else that's really new that jumps out at me. We've got the same old milling attachment vice jaws for the new reproductions for $39.99 and $6.40 shipping. You know, we've already been down that road. I don't remember what I priced mine at now that we've done that. I think they're like 10 or 15 bucks, something, I don't know. There's a 7-inch metal shaper here that's been listed for a few days now. They want $3,000 or best offer. You know, I don't think they're worth that. Otherwise, everything else under milling machines here is pretty much been relisted. The Atlas knee parts for the MH model, for the production model, that knee and the associated parts are still listed. It's been listed, what, 4 or 5 times now for about the same money. It's not worth it. There is a set of Atlas milling cutters, Woodruff key seats, and mill boring bar machinist. It's got 28 bids right now, up to $107.50 and $9.30 shipping. A lot of original Atlas tooling in the original boxes and everything. You know, I looked at them at one time. I don't really remember condition and everything. I'm sure a lot of them are probably new from looking at it. I'm watching those just to see what they go for. So there is a milling machine vise, and this is not an Atlas vise. Milling machine vise, swivel vise, machine shop, drill press, huge, USA made precision, $499.99 and $132 shipping. It's got no bids on it. This is a 6-inch vise. There's no markings on it. He says there's no markings on it, but he says it's not a cheap Chinese import type of thing. I believe it to be a cheap Chinese import, and for $500 you can go buy a Kurt vise or something like that. This is a rust bucket. This is not going to sell for $500. And this is one of those things, and this gets on to one of the other items that we'll talk about again, that they throw them out there for these astronomical prices, and they know full well, unless they just find somebody that's stupid, that's been smoking dope again, why they're not going to buy these. So, you know, I think this, I don't know if this is the first time this has been listed or if it's been listed for a couple of days. Nobody in their right mind is going to give $500 for this piece of crap. So, anyway. I'll leave that at that. There's no reason to go there. Everything else has been here for a few days. I'm not going to worry about it. I do want to keep this fairly short. I've got things to do today. More important things than this. We look under shapers, pre-owned shaper. There is a shaper vise here that looks to be a decent vise. It's missing the jaws, I believe, and it's got some rust on it. For $99.95, it's got one bid there and $20 shipping. That may be a decent little Atlas vise for the right amount of money, but you know, as it comes down to the wire, why people will give. You know, you go on down and there's that one that's been chewed up and the corners have been cut out of the mounting base that they still want $349 for and $25.50 shipping. Buy it now. So, and there's some new reproduction parts and stuff. Nothing that matters. Under lathes, here we're back to the new old stock stuff. 10-12 inch lathe 9-113A spacer sleeve bushing. And the gist of this is it's claimed to be new old stock, and I actually believe it is new old stock. $25 for best offer and $3 shipping. And this guy's got a bunch of new old stock stuff here listed for some of it fairly decent amount of money. The problem is this has been kicking around for years. It's got some moisture to it, and it's junk. You know, I mean, yes, it could be cleaned up and it would be functional, but for the amount of money they want, he's got some half scrolls or half nut scrolls listed right below it for $45 and $6 shipping. They've been kicking around. They've got some moisture to them where it shows a nice little white flaky powder and stuff. These things are already deteriorating, even though they are new old stock. And he's wanting $45 for these scroll nuts. You go on down, and there's a couple of used scrolls for $21.99 and $24.99, I think. That are, yes, they're used, they're worn, but actually they're in better condition than what this guy's wanting $45 for new old stock. You know, it's buyer beware. So anyway, I just kind of scroll past those. Those I just noticed. This is kind of stuff we've talked about before. There is one down here that goes to show that sellers will tell you anything to move their product. And this one I took offense to a little bit. Here's a new listing for a OEM step motor pulley, 5/8 bore. It's the 10-428. This is a motor pulley for the lathe. It's probably got other applications too, but it's a 10-428, 5/8 bore, and got the keyway with it and everything. It's used, which, you know, for a pulley, as long as it's not all whacked out of shape and got big hunks out of it, why, that's okay. $87 buy it now and $9.25 shipping. I won't give that much for a pulley. They're not worth it. There's other alternatives, even though they're not original. And we'll get to the pulleys here again in a minute. The one that I found offensive, I guess, is probably the best way of putting it, is someone has done some 3D printing again, which we're seeing more and more 3D printing. I've given my opinion before. I personally don't feel that 3D prints of any sort have any business as a working piece of equipment on an Atlas machine. Part of that is long-term functionality, even though they'll claim otherwise, and part of it is for the aesthetics of it. These are older machines. They need to be restored, and aesthetically they are better in a original condition, or as close to original condition as we can make them within reason. They need to look like they're that vintage piece. Now, guys are printing stuff out of ABS, and I see a couple listed here, things like cross-feed bevel gears. They're printing them out of ABS, and ABS is probably the best choice for some of these, but the way they're being marketed is, I consider, misleading. And here we are, there's a couple of them now. Lead screw bearings with the bronze bushing in them. They're 3D printed, so I don't think they're the proper material to be on there. And there's some things here. Yeah, this is the listing. And there's a fairly lengthy description. Replace missing or broken part. Original brackets are sometimes damaged, worn out, or lost. This tough ABS part will take a beating, complete with bronze oil light bushings to bear the load. Superior to original factory part in every way. Strong and serviceable. Okay, ABS will not dissolve with standard lubricants or become soft in a hot garage or workshop. Expect decades of service, unlike non-engineered plastics PLA used. And that is true in that respect. Okay, well, there's another listing that from the same seller describing that they're made in a temperature controlled environment using additive technology. They're 3D printed. When you use ABS, if you're not familiar with it, ABS pretty much has to be printed in a box, basically, where usually you're running a little bit higher temperature in there, and that temperature has to be maintained for ABS to print properly, where PLA is kind of a, you stick it in there, set it on your counter, on your workbench, whatever, and you print out what you want in PLA or some of these other things that they're printing with it. ABS is much more finicky to print, from my understanding. I don't play with ABS, but so to me, when you're advertising that they have to be, that you're printing them in a temperature controlled environment and that type of thing, that's not really a selling point. That's a necessity to get a decent print. So, okay, that's what it is. The thing that stuck out to me is, okay, this bracket is made from ABS. The original was made from Zamac liquid metal. Yes, and your lathe bed is made out of liquid cast iron. That to me is slamming the original Zamac parts to make yours look better, and that is not an accurate description of Zamac in my opinion. Zamac is a lower temperature alloy than aluminum. It casts at, I think, 800 to 900 degrees. I don't remember exactly. I do play with some Zamac stuff, and I've been over the reasons that I think Zamac is the proper material to be using on that. Now, we are replacing Zamac with what we have available to us. Same way with, we're replacing cast iron with a lot of things that are available to us. I still cast a lot of things in aluminum for these machines that I feel will be a acceptable replacement in some applications. Now, I'm not saying mine is better or worse than what the factory did. It's the way that I've done to do it with the materials that I work with that I think are the best thing. I play with 3D print stuff. I don't play with ABS, at least at this point in time, but I still do not feel it has a place on the machine. I use it for prototyping parts. I use it for making some casting patterns, things like that, using newer technology, but I don't feel it has a place on an Atlas machine, whether it's a load-bearing area or not. Just aesthetically, I don't think it belongs there. That's my opinion. People will disagree with me, and that's fine. But to say Zamac is just a liquid metal, that kind of indicates that you're casting a resin-type material or a powdered metal or something, and that's not true. That's not accurate. When you look at the Zamac properties, it is superior to a lot of other materials. The problem we have with it now is after 40, 50 years, and depending on the environment it was kept in, yes, it deteriorates. So That's what that goes. I do not believe that even out of ABS, things like gears will long-term under continuous use will hold up. I think you're going to get chips in there. I think it's going to chew them up worse than anything else. When we look at things like miter gears and threading nuts, lead screw nuts, that type of thing, when you can still get new production stuff from the factory, from Clausing, and they're still producing these parts in Zamac, there's a reason for that. You know, it is the proper replacement for the application. You know, for the most part, these guys kind of went to school for this stuff, and they know what they're doing. So that's why they did them that way. So this one just stuck out to me. Anyway, moving on. Let's go back. Let me look in my watch list, because there was a couple of things that were interesting. And the main one was the Marvin dividing head. And I've got it here in my watch list. I've got a couple of things in my watch list. That Marvin head was listed for, if we remember last time I talked about it, and we talked quite a bit about it, why it was listed opening bid of $250 with a reserve on it and $750 buy it now. I think it was a $750 buy it now. There ended up being two bids that went to $400 and it did not sell. It was relisted, I believe, just on a three-day listing and with the same terms. And I noticed it went off with two bids. I think it had the same $400 high bid. Two guys were after it. Didn't meet the reserve. It was listed the same way. Last night it was listed. I'll have to come back to another one I've got here. Let me find that. Last night it was listed for a $250 buy it now, which I felt was actually somewhat foolish, because I would have probably put it back out. You know, you were going to get $400 out of it. I would have put it back with the same thing, except I would have put my reserve at probably $400. It, as of this morning, has sold. It went for that $250. So, or best offer. So that continues to tell me, now this is a fairly new eBayer. He probably needed Christmas money, and you know, it is, you know, he had to buy it now, $700 on it this last time it sold. So, you know, I find it interesting that it went for that cheap, where he should have had at least $400 out of it, or he should have had $400 out of it. But that's the way it goes. So I did find that interesting, because we talked quite a bit about that Marvin head. So somebody got a good buy there. And congratulations. I looked at it. I considered jumping on it last night, but I didn't need it. Don't, you know, no sense in me getting in that fray there. So let's see here. Okay, well, I ended up and just got a print from Atlas for a gear that I needed for on my shaper, and two of the gears that are on my shaper are incorrect. The countershaft, well, one of them, the countershaft pulley off of the motor is too large. Which is why my machine still does not have a guard on it that I produce the smaller guards for. So I sat down and started drawing that up in CAD here the other day, and I'll be making a pattern off of that, and I'm going to cast that in aluminum. We'll see how that works out, and decide if I'm going to do those. Those were originally Zamac. For right now, I'm going to do a green sand casting out of that and see how it comes out. I actually started drawing it in CAD, and then, because I hadn't heard back from Clausing, and yesterday they did send me the print. My dimensions for what I drew up in CAD are off of one that is listed for sale, and they want $80 for it, and I won't give $80 for a pulley. It's a S7-124, and I based mine off of this. I think I've got a pretty good reproduction of it. I'm going to compare dimensions on it. The print that I got from Atlas is a little bit different than this pulley. And on the print it shows that it was redrawn in, I think, 1958, 1954, 1958, something like that. And I think they probably streamlined that design a little bit. The one that I see here and the one that I redrew in CAD is a little more, has a few more curves. You know, it's a little more, I won't say aesthetically pleasing, but it doesn't just have the flat surfaces. It's got some rounding on it and things like that that you would see more from that era of machine production. You know, there's some curves on the insides of the pulley and things like that that maybe add a little more strength, maybe are a little bit more aesthetically pleasing just to look at than a standard inside the pulley that's flat on the face, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and print mine out, I think, the way it is. I'll double check my dimensions and make sure I'm pretty close, and I left enough material to machine these down, I think. So plus it'll add a little more strength just being a little more material than the actual print shows. So I'm probably not going to make too many changes, but I'll get that printed out hopefully yet this week. So and it's going to be a 3D print to build a pattern off of. So for what it's worth there. Anyway, I found that interesting. So that will be coming up. The other one is there's actually two purchases that I made off of Fleabay here. And one of them is supposed to be here today. The other one, like I say, arrived late last night. And we'll talk about the one that's arriving today later on. But I have a little package here that came in the mail. Let me find the listing here. And this goes back to why I think these sellers are overpricing this stuff or feel they've overinflated the prices of these. This pulley, where is it? If it'll go to the right page here, why are we not? Well, my screen's not updating here. Let's see what we can do. What's happening? Okay. The other pulley on my counter shaft was broken, I think probably from a fall over before I bought it. And it had been repaired and works fine, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't proper really for what we had. So this is a pulley that was listed, and you're seeing it for the first time too here, just like I am. And it was the proper pulley. It looked fairly decent in the pictures, and I saved it into my watch list. And this was listed at $35 plus shipping, which may have been a fair price. I wasn't exceptionally interested at that point in time. And this is the 10-80 with a 3/4 inch bore. And I saved it to my watch list, and as so often happens, and as I said so often happens, you almost immediately receive a offer or a discount. So I got an offer on it, and I thought, well, let's play this little game here. So I made a counter offer on it, and got it for the price of $22 and about $10 shipping, $11 shipping, $8 shipping, something like that. So I feel I got a fair price. So that pulley, and it is in, from what I can see here with this bad lighting, in very good condition. I don't see any problems. There's a little bit of corrosion marking, it looks like, right there. Otherwise, this is a very good looking pulley. I have absolutely no complaints with that at all. But that pulley was worth $22. I was willing to give $22 for that, and I think I got a good deal. So when I get out there today, I'll double check and make sure that it does match up to the match up to the shaper, which I'm sure it does. It looks to be right. So if you're willing to do that on these, you know, I won't pay full price for pretty much anything anymore. And I've always been of the attitude that if the seller could sell it for $20, that's what it should be listed for. You know, I don't like this, let's make a deal type of thing. I guess that's changed here on Fleabay. If you're going to deal there, you need to be willing to play let's make a deal, and you need to dicker over this stuff, and I've never liked that. In reality, the same thing has happened on the part that I've got coming today. And I don't remember the prices on it, but I saved it to my watch list. I think I got a discounted offer, or I may have just made an offer on it. I don't remember now. Seller came back with a counter offer, I think, and I thought I'm not going to pay that much for it, so I gave him one more counter offer, and we kind of met in the middle, and I gave a little bit more than I felt I wanted to give for it, but it was at least reasonable enough to where I went ahead and invested my money there. So anyway, those are my little rants for the day. We did get a good pulley that's going to go on the shaper, I think, unless something else I find goes awry with it. But anyway, that's the morning update. Hopefully you've found this a little bit useful, entertaining. Watch my rants go on here about how I think we pay too much for this stuff. And, you know, comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below. And as always, guys, thanks for taking the time to watch.